Thanks. Where'd Frank go? White Sox, is that AAA Indiana ball? What is that? So, anyways, before we begin, I'm Chris, and I want to thank Bill for coming from Voci. Really, we announced, and as Andy mentioned earlier, excited about our partnership with Voci. We've seen some really nice results and want to give you some context around that today, kind of why we chose Voci, how we're leveraging Voci, and hopefully you find it pretty interesting. I actually went in my inbox before I came and I looked at kind of what's in there. And if you look, there's a lot of people interested in me. And this is only from a few weeks, so I feel like a Kardashian a bit. But look at all these surveys. I mean, this really was, I just went, skimmed it quickly. Those are all in there. And what really strikes me when I get these surveys and look at them, one is it would probably take me the entire evening to talk about how well my day was to really fulfill these the way what they're looking for. And two, it's why even do this? I mean, most of these companies are recording their phone calls. Their insights are in there. The entire dialogue's there. Actually, I read a stat. So last year alone, there was 200 billion minutes of inbound calls to US call centers, and the average organization only analyzes 2% of them. So very little people using those insights and really trying to drive it through survey. And I do believe fatigue is there. There's actually some pretty interesting math when you look at word counts. I found this. So the average call center takes about 250,000 calls per day. And if you look at the dialogue, just the customer speech within that dialogue, it's about 4 minutes long, which averages to about 650 words are contained in that phone call. So in that data set alone, from a day's calls, it's about 162 million words of your customers talking about who they are, what they want, what their views of the experience are. All the things that are trying to ferret out in those surveys are in that. Then you look at surveys alone, only about 3%, and that's a pretty high return rate for people that survey. Within that equates to about 9,000 responses if you were to survey all those calls for the day, which is about 208 words when you look at those. So it's a data set of about 187,000 words. So when you're saying, hey, I want to find insights about my customer, it's 187,000 to 162 million. Obviously, a lot can be learned in phone calls, and it's a great data set. And if you think about it, you do that even within a month, you're at billions and billions of words. I mean, Carl Sagan, that guy's smiling when he thinks of that. There's a lot to do there. So really in that is when we looked and said, there's a lot we can learn in these calls, but it's a huge data set. So when you look at the analytic engine and the kind of speech engine you use, we're going to have to transcribe these. I want to transcribe them accurately, but wow, it is a bunch of calls. That's going to be a ton quickly. So I need something, an engine, a speech engine that's quick and it's accurate. And so we looked at the market, we looked at kind of the leading players out there, and Voci bubbled to the top. And why? A few big things. One is they're 100 times real time. So if you had 100 hours of calls, they can analyze that in an hour to do the transcription. And in that, they're getting in the ranges kind of mid-80s to 90s from an accuracy standpoint. So not only fast, but accurate. And being a technologist, the other part I really liked about Voci is some people go for speed by making their voice engines, they reduce the vocabulary because they're only looking for a few words here or there. They're trying to do word spotting. They're not trying to build this rich understanding of the dialogue. Voci doesn't do that. Voci actually uses hardware acceleration to leverage their entire speech model to do that. And that's how they gain the accuracy and the speed. So with that, we built the partnership. We announced it in April. And again, I've been seeing some exciting things around that. So what do we use it for? One area where the accurate voice transcriptions is helping out is we're looking at trending topics. So this is looking within these calls, analyzing word by word through the transcriptions, and finding a few things. What's bubbling up in unexpected prevalence? What is a topic that customers are talking about that I kind of didn't expect, and it's bubbling up out of the norm? We also look for critical spikes. So as I'm talking, what's really trending today or trending this week? Hey, there's something here, we ought to react to it. Or escalating frequency. So, wow, no one was talking about this last month, but they're starting to talk about it more and more. Maybe we should adapt our scripting or at least address that, start to do something with it. So what we do with that when we find an important trend is you can send an alert to a group, or you can kick off an entire workflow. But the real point and kind of the value in that from a customer standpoint is you can act on it soon after it happened versus waiting for, over time, these are going to escalate into issues, and now you're really just dealing with the issues. When you get the trends and you can get them in almost real time, you can get some pretty quick responses. The other thing we're seeing, and really seeing the highest value with trending topics in too, is winning behaviors. Something that Wisconsin football doesn't know anything about. That's for Frank. But the other element there, when you, Frank started it, but but if you do look at your agents, right, some are actually selling more. They're cross-selling their scripts. They're doing better. Some are creating less customer distress. We saw it in the variability there. Or some, in the collections, we're looking, some people are collecting more than others. Why are they doing that? And some you can look at the desktop, you can look at process, but the calls have a lot of insight into this as well. So in these calls, we can look and say, well, we know who actually created the sale, or we know who has less distress, so we know the outcome, and we know the population that's having these dialogues. We analyze through the actual calls themselves, and you can start to ferret out, what scripts are working. These people are running through scripts every day. Some scripts are hitting, some aren't. Which ones are the impactful ones? Okay, let me adjust my scripting system to bubble others up to the top, really hit those. Collections is a good one too. When should you probe for information? Do I have to do it right away, or should I do a little rapport building before I do that? How long into the call, how many seconds, minutes should I do, and then do that? Or if I'm going to sell, when do I make the offer? Should I offer early in case I get rejected, then offer again? Should I wait, build my whole case up, then make an offer? The data's in there, right? You know that people made the sales, you have the dialogue, you can analytically solve that. So really looking at winning behaviors and understanding through the dialogues what to do there, we see a lot of value in that. And again, what enables that is to be able to transcribe these calls accurately and analyze these big data sets quickly. And that's really what Voce's enabled for us. So other things we do with Voce is we take those same transcripts and we can improve our predictive models. So we do these, not only predicting will a sale occur, but you can predict, is there CSAT on this call? You can predict the amount of distress. Is this customer likely to leave? We're starting to work Voce into our predictive analytics as well. And some are on compliance risk scoring. So if you think about mini Mirandas, I know a lot of people's industry have that. There's certain times in that dialogue the agent needs to say this. They need to tell the customer, well, are they saying that? And then when they are saying it, are they saying it accurately? So really analyzing the call for kind of improved compliance is another area. And third is really the data feeds. I know someone asked about your analytics. Can you export those to other systems? Can you export them to areas? Well, one request we've had and what we've opened up the architecture for is we can also feed data lakes. So we can either push data in or pull data from data lakes. But the transcriptions that are provided through Voce, we can put those into a data lake if people want those fed there, or the analytics with that towards that. So Voce's enable us to kind of get accurate transcriptions that we can leverage in multiple ways there. So finally, and I'll let Bill talk a little bit here, is three real reasons. Accuracy and speed were big ones, right? And then a third one is really the business value. And one I didn't touch on so far, but is another neat feature with Voce is they can do PCI call scrubbing. So if you're in financial institution or you're collecting Visa numbers or any numbers and digits throughout the calls, we've been able to do this a while. What you used to have to do is have an agent on the desktop click every so often when they might be typing in a Visa number or have some digits. Voce doesn't need that piece. Through the dialogue itself, we can look at numbers accurately and then scrub those out. So it makes a safer audio as you're storing your audio. And again, can still do that at the speed that we have. So that was another big benefit with that. And the open architecture, they were easy in our kind of ecosystem for how we operate to plug them in and start to leverage within the architecture. So with that, I'll turn over to Bill for a little bit.
Thanks, Chris. We're excited about the strategic partnership with Mattersight as well. Curious if anybody knows what city this is up here? Any guesses? Pittsburgh, that's right. So Voce actually, we spun out of Carnegie Mellon University, and we had seen that the speech recognition market had really kind of plateaued and started doing research, and back in 2009, spun the company out as a commercial organization and improving speech recognition and speech analytics, and have been doing so since then. Just a little bit about the company. Really, our mission is to help you gain value and monetize which is often a largely non-monetized asset in a company, and that's the literal voice of the customer. So all those call recordings, taking advantage of those. If you're not taking advantage of those and running analytics against it, I think you're missing a huge opportunity because there's lots and lots of use cases that can be had. Operational effectiveness, sales effectiveness, compliance, collections, as Chris mentioned, and being able to do it at scale at 100% of your call audio. So not having to sample and go through all of that. And part of that being the speed advantages that we have as an organization with the hardware acceleration of our platform. Chris mentioned that 100 times real time, taking 100 hours of audio and transcribing it in an hour. We're actually starting to do some projects where we're doing things real time and transcribing while a call's actually in progress. So you can pop something to an agent's desktop. As you said, the most accurate, lowest latency, so all that garbage in, garbage out impacts the downstream analytics. So vastly important to have the accuracy there. And then from a speech standpoint, it's not only about just transcribing the calls, but a lot of additional metadata attributes that we are looking for in those conversations around emotional intelligence, language modeling, how words are connected, the hierarchies there, speakers, whether it was a male or female, and being able to run analytics on both sides of the conversation. That's part of what we do as we transcribe the audio. So our value proposition, or a key piece of our value proposition, has always been that we architected the solution from the ground up to be open. So at the top you see speech in, that's where we play. That's our swim lane. The audio channel is typically still king in most contact centers. And that's where we take advantage of those call recordings and transcribe those and push those down into other solutions, other text analytics solutions like Mattersight and others you see here where they focus more on the text channels. So they're working with the email, chats, social media, where we're working with the voice channel. And the combination thereof, now you can start to get that 360-degree view of the customer and do omni-channel kind of analytics. So open on the front end and open on the back end. Call recorder agnostic for us. We don't care who you have. And we can push the information out the back end to all these different platforms that you may or may not have. So how to engage? I'll be here throughout the conference. Love to have an opportunity to talk to you, talk about your business, explore if we might be able to help. And Chris and Andy as well be here and touch base with them, be at the party tonight, and love to have the opportunity to meet and connect.